A UK family spent $10,000 on a trip to Toronto for the World Cup with no ticket to the actual games. They spent over $10,000 on flights and a Scarborough Airbnb to travel to Toronto for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, despite completely failing to secure tickets to a single match due to aggressive dynamic pricing. They claim they're totally fine just hanging out at patios and official fan fests, and I don't know if they said this before or after they got to Scarborough. My feeling is that maybe they made this statement before they actually got to Scarborough. No disrespect, but it's Scarborough, you know. Imagine spending $10,000 to stay in Scarborough and have to watch the World Cup on TV. The only reason I ever went to Scarborough was for a colonoscopy, and FYI, I had a great time and highly recommend it. If I had to, I'd say it's pretty much as much fun as watching soccer. An order dispute at Tim Hortons escalated into a violent, rage-fueled altercation that ultimately left a 75-year-old customer dead. Is this the most boomer thing ever? Like raging at a drive-thru order to the point of leaving your car to go into the store to berate a child and then starting a fight you cannot win only to die on the floor 10 minutes later. Imagine having the energy to get out of your car because your shitty coffee and shitty bagel are shitty. I know I couldn't. I don't have the energy or the audacity, and I wish I had both. And just for the record, the 75-year-old didn't die because they were, beaten up. They died, I assume, from like a heart explosion after raging too hard. In Halifax, Uber released its annual Lost and Found Index, and the items are interesting, to say the least. Forgetful riders left behind a 15-pound frozen turkey, a single leg from a bed frame, an aquarium full of live fish, full set of hockey goalie equipment, and 12 entire pizzas. I literally need all those things, and I want them. So if you don't see me on here, catch me on the streets. Do you know how much goalie equipment costs? I do, because my parents would never buy it for me, and that was decades ago. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. During a Meet the Press interview filmed in Wisconsin, President Donald Trump abruptly ripped off his microphone and walked out. The exit was triggered when moderator Kristen Welker repeatedly pressed him for evidence regarding his claims that California's ongoing elections are rigged, to which Trump famously answered, "All I have to do is look." Is that all you have to do? Okay. Which begs the question, if they're checking his eyeballs when he takes his monthly dementia test, which he claims to ace, by the way, which probably means he's doing very poorly on them if you know the guy and his MO. But I digress. So is this the same way he looks at blurry pictures of exploded boats and claims to see drugs? Is that how that works with this guy now? So basically, what this boils down to is an old man sees something he doesn't like, convinces himself of a lie, and expects you to agree with him, and becomes enraged when confronted with reality. Florida man breaks into a store with a chainsaw and steals $12,000 worth of Pokemon cards. Thank you, Florida man, for cheering me up. A 33-year-old man in Florida decided the best tool for a stealthy card heist was a gas-powered chainsaw. He used it to carve a hole through a hurricane-proof window to steal $12,000 worth of rare Pokemon cards, cutting himself in the process and leaving a literal blood trail for the police to follow. Florida man strikes again, and these always bring me joy. What can I say? I love a good Florida man story. But what does it say about our society that people are stealing Pokemon cards? In my day, Florida men robbed liquor stores and gas stations, but these Gen Z Florida men, they're stealing Pokemons and toys and shit. And I also likely to use a chainsaw to break into the store and cut himself. Because at the end of the day, I'm a fan of the dramatics and the theatrics. So, never change, Florida man. Never change. Or maybe do. Also, not one mention of meth, so is Florida man growing? Improving? It's 2026 and Florida man is out here living his best life. Good for you, Florida man. Police in Brazil arrested a 37-year-old woman who successfully convinced a family she was a 12-year-old autistic child named Gabrielle. She maintained the disguise for 14 months by talking like a child, playing with toys, and actively using pacifiers and baby bottles. She explained away her adult features by claiming her father had subjected her to forced hormone treatments. I couldn't find a picture of her actual face, I assume because, being that she is a child, they wanted to protect her identity. And honestly, who could blame her? I think in these days we'd all like to go back to our childhood and try again. In fact, I'd like to go so far as to say any and every 37-year-old should try this. I know I will. Is it just me, or does this sound like the ultimate millennial fantasy? And a potential billion-dollar idea, if I may, for a whole new industry that we could call rechilding. You've heard of rewilding? Well, now millennials can go back to better times when Ninja Turtles and Masters of the Universe and Pokemons reigned supreme. Wait, A South Carolina cop lost his job after he allegedly pulled his service gun on a colleague who made the egregious mistake of microwaving fish at their police station. And I don't usually side with the cops here, but I would absolutely pull a gun on a coworker for microwaving fish at work. That should be the fireable offense right there. And here's why, okay? There's two reasons, right? First, and most obviously, the smell. That alone warrants a bullet, you know? But second, have you ever eaten microwave fish? It's horrible. It's disgusting. You're better off eating cold fish, okay? It's the worst. The simple act of microwaving fish should be a crime punishable by jail. And at work, give them the chair. A social media content creator accepted a fan dare to try to consume 10 chicken nuggets while actively riding a roller coaster. After he proudly posted his video of the stunt online, Six Flags parent company issued a swift permanent ban across all of their amusement parks for violating ride safety regulations. They're banning people over nuggets? Chicken nuggets? Chicken nuggets? I think the real question on everyone's mind is what kind of sauce, all right? Because if it's anything other than sweet and sour, I get it. I get the ban. I get it. Add it to my list of jailable offenses from before. Anything other than sweet and sour on your nuggets, jail. Remember when Kristi Noem's husband was revealed to be a freak? Well, a webcam model whose services he paid for called him an extremely needy client who required plenty of praise and feedback. But I think I finally understand why they get so bent out of shape about drag shows. It's because they weren't invited to perform. But girl, you gotta work. You gotta work. I don't know. So don't worry, conservative men. Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, your 7-inch leather heel bootstraps, and get out there and flaunt your stuff. Honestly, it shouldn't be too hard to project feminine strength. You guys spend your entire lives projecting male strength, so it should just be a quick recalibration, right? Yes, conservative men do generally have a certain MO, which is a man in the streets and a needy, praise-hungry bitch in the sheets. Great horned owl was rescued in Utah after accidentally becoming trapped inside a commercial concrete mixer. The owl made a full recovery and was released back into the wild, and immediately burst into flames because it's 3,000 degrees thanks to an AI data center. Speaking of which, Kevin O'Leary's 40,000 AI data center that was planned for Utah is being scaled back after outrage from the local community. Before agreeing to the scaling back, Kevin assumed that the backlash was stoked by Chinese state-sponsored online accounts. Of course, right? Because for a billionaire, it's easier to consider that any opposition to them are paid crisis actors as opposed to people who just want to be able to live in their communities and have luxuries like water and electricity. Yeah. Anyway, that's right, billionaires are so dumb they can't fathom why anyone wouldn't want their community destroyed so that the billionaire can make slightly more money that they don't even need. Thanks, billionaires. You're just doing God's work. Public libraries across the United States are introducing a high-energy literacy campaign called Lucha Libro, which features fully costumed live wrestling matches staged directly inside standard library spaces to drum up youth reading engagement. Will this face the same opposition as drag story time? Tough to say. After all, the opponents really seem to hate the fact that people were dressing up to read stories, but I'm sure that the American public will be satiated now that violence is involved in learning. Zoo in Bangladesh has seen a massive surge in visitor attendance thanks to a resident buffalo that has gone viral. The animal was officially named Donald Trump by handlers due to a rare prominent tuft of golden hair on its head. And MAGA rejoice now that they found their next golden calf to worship. And most Americans are wondering if they could have the buffalo as a president instead. When asked, one American said, well, the buffalo hasn't bankrupted 2 casinos and several businesses, so that's an improvement. But half the country was dismayed when they found out that the buffalo isn't racist enough for their tastes. They said hard pass. We'll stick with the bloated bovine we know, thanks very much. And this just in, the zoo is now being sued for defamation of character for the comparison it made to that disgusting animal. When asked for a response, the buffalo said, come on, I don't look that bad, do I? A Japanese company is seeing a massive surge in orders for its monster wolf animatronic robots. These robot wolves have flashing red eyes and growl to scare away wild bears from towns and hot springs. Look at these things, they are terrifying. In my day, we had to watch movies for nightmare fuel. Now you just need to go outside. And I get it for towns and farms, but hot springs? Really? Don't the bears have as much a right to be there as people? I mean, what's next? Crazy robot wolves in your picnic baskets and jars of honey? Okay, I don't actually know anything about bears. I don't. That was a lie. I lied to you just now. I apologize. Don't hate me. Just trying to make it in this world. Anyway, word to the wise, start putting money aside now for your kids' therapy bills if you have these terrifying robot wolves in your town. An Illinois man just set a world record for owning 3,482 bear bricks, which are expensive bear-shaped designer toys, apparently. And in other news, there's apparently a male loneliness epidemic going on, and no one seems to know why. Because if you ask women, they're like, I'm just looking for a guy who has like a record-setting collection of toy bears. That's what women want these days. Yeah.